Every year, more and more people are travelling to the sacred wonders of the world. Places like the Taj Mahal, Stonehenge and the pyramids. But the most sacred of them all is Jerusalem. This place is sacred to more than 3.5 billion people. Jews, Muslims and Christians. It's the most important piece of real estate on the planet.
My name is Robert Beckford. I'm going to take you on an extraordinary journey through the streets of Jerusalem, through 4,000 years of hidden history, to discover why this place is so sacred to more people on the planet than anywhere else.
I've been studying religion for over 20 years and am now a professor of theology in England. I've written 5 books and presented scores of lectures around the world. I've been to Jerusalem many times and know the city like the back of my hand. But there are still many mysteries to be uncovered.
Wow, from the time of Jesus, for you.
In this program, we'll reveal sacred mysteries never before seen on television. Like why these pilgrims who think they're following in the footsteps of Jesus are literally on the wrong path. I'll show you where Jesus really walked. Like why these tunnels proved the key to King David's capture of Jerusalem 3,000 years ago. Like why one of the most sacred sites in Islam contains a hidden prayer to Jesus. It's never been filmed before. This is where the stories of the Bible really come to life.
This is the ultimate in a religious experience.
We're going well off the beaten track.
But filming in this city is never easy. Do we have permission? Yeah, we've got the permission.
In this program, we'll reveal mysteries you will never forget.
This marks the spot where Jesus was born.
This is the valley of Judgment Day, and it takes place here.
And it will change forever the way you think about this holy city.
Robert, don't you get it? God lives here.
This is the most sacred place upon earth.
It's holy, kiss the floor.
It's a place where things that happened thousands of years ago directly affect what's happening in the world today. Come along and find out why. Jerusalem is sacred to 3 of the world's great religions, Judaism, Christianity and Islam. The big guys of each of them, Abraham, Jesus and Muhammad, all came through here.
Jerusalem is in Israel, a small country roughly the size of New Jersey. It's sandwiched between the Mediterranean and Arab lands of Egypt, Jordan and Lebanon. In 2007, record numbers of Americans, more than 500,000 travellers visited here. People often think of Israel as a battleground between Jews and Muslims, but Christianity is also important here too. Even today, the old city, just half the size of Central Park, is divided in quarters, Christian, Jewish and Muslim.
This is where Jesus walked, talked, preached, healed, where he was tried, crucified and resurrected from the dead. It's no wonder that thousands of pilgrims come here every year.
So first off, let's explore Christian Jerusalem.
Glory!
Hallelujah!
Hallelujah! God is so good.
You just feel like you're somewhere where Christ actually was, and it just brings it home to you.
It makes the Bible come alive. I can see the places that the Bible talks about. It really helps you understand it better.
But Jesus didn't just live here, he died here too. And for Christians, his last hours and death upon the cross make this city especially sacred.
This is the Via Dolorosa, the place where pilgrims come to retrace the footsteps of Christ to the crucifixion. What does it mean to you to be walking in the footsteps of Jesus?
It has given us more inspiration spiritually and morally and belief to know that what we've read is really truth.
So you feel you're literally walking in the footsteps of Jesus?
Yes.
The path the pilgrims follow goes from east to west, through the old city of Jerusalem. But is this really the very streets where Jesus walked to his death? There's a real mystery here, one that's never been revealed before. Father Jerome Murphy O'Connor is the world's leading expert on the biblical sites of Jerusalem. For the last 40 years, he's lived, worked, and breathed the holy history of the city. And it's led him to a shocking conclusion.
The current route that pilgrims follow is certainly not the right one. It starts at the wrong side of the city, and it developed only in the 15th century.
So according to Father Jerome, the route the pilgrims follow is the wrong one. The false route grew up because the Muslims in charge of the city at the time would only let Christians parade along certain streets. And that false route has become ingrained ever since. So, how can we discover the real route that Jesus took to his execution? The key to the mystery is the location of Jesus' trial before the Roman leader Pontius Pilate.
Historically, Pilate would have lived on the other side of the city at the citadel, and there's no doubt that this is where Pilate was when he judged Jesus. And so the real Via Dolorosa would have gone from west to east, not from east to west as it is today.
Before his death, Jesus was put on trial here. So the most likely route to his crucifixion was this way. And it was probably on this very road that he struggled with the cross. And one of these side streets would have led him to the place of execution.
It's hard to believe as I walk through these stalls that this was where Jesus suffered. At the time, for some, he was an inspiring leader and teacher, but for others, he was just a rabble-rousing nuisance who deserved to die.
Crucifixion was a brutal and ghastly form of execution. When Jesus walked down here, people would have been jostling him, shouting, screaming, some people insulting him. It must have been one of the most traumatic things that anybody could ever go through.
But whichever route you follow, you end up here, the very spot where Jesus was crucified.
I'm outside the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, one of the holiest places within Christianity. Every single day, thousands of pilgrims visit this place.
This is ancient and holy. Parts of this church are 1700 years old. This rotunda dates from before the Middle Ages. The Romanesque architecture here is stunning, certainly worthy of a site of such significance.
Over there is where Jesus was crucified, and then behind me is the place where he was laid to rest and then rose from the grave. But with all the hustle and bustle and the thousands of people here, it's really hard to find a sense of the sacred.
I think for pilgrims it should be more peaceful, but to balance that, every serious historian and archaeologist will tell you it's the right place.
So we've uncovered one mystery, Jesus' real path to his crucifixion, and better understand why this city is so sacred for Christians. But there are other faiths here, Judaism and Islam, and more surprises. This is the Dome of the Rock, what makes it, for many people, the holiest place on the planet. And what's the secret behind these ancient tunnels? And how did they help King David conquer Jerusalem and make it a Jewish city? We're just beginning to dig into the mysteries this holiest of cities is hiding. I'm Robert Beckford, and I'm on a quest for clues to the real story of how Jerusalem came to be one of the most sacred places on the planet. I've already uncovered a mystery about Jesus, how the traditional route pilgrims followed to his crucifixion is mistaken. But there's a much earlier puzzle, a Jewish puzzle, dating back 2,000 years before Jesus, when Jerusalem first fell to the Jews.
This is the city of David, the oldest inhabited part of Jerusalem. People have been living here for over 3,000 years, but it has a secret, and I'm off to find out what it is.
The city of David is the site of an ancient fortress and lies just south of the old city wall of Jerusalem. It was a mighty structure, a palace with walls 60 feet high, impregnable to the outside world. And the mystery is this: just how did this amazing fortress fall? Think back 3,000 years. A brutal civil war is raging over the land. Only by conquering Jerusalem can the Jewish King David unite the warring tribes and defend the country against the invading Philistines. But high on a rocky hillside, this city had never been conquered before. So how did David, the boy who slew Goliath, conquer the fortress and make Jerusalem a Jewish city? I'm about to meet a man who can show us what many believe is the key to the mystery.
Robert Beckford, pleased to meet you.
Jerome Spielman, how are you?
Good, good.
Would you like to see our underground city?
Definitely.
Let's go.
Thank you.
Deron Spielman works at the site where it's believed King David first conquered the city nearly 3,000 years ago. And he did it from deep underground.
So you're now standing at the entrance to one of the greatest finds ever in Jerusalem. This tunnel is almost 4,000 years old. This was dug through solid bedrock more than 600 years before iron was even discovered on Earth.
Now, if they didn't have iron, how did they do this?
That's one of the greatest questions we ask ourselves today. It's bewildering. It's absolutely bewildering. All we can say is it must have been an enormous amount of time and effort, meaning bronze against this type of stone is almost impossible. It's the kind of project, Robert, that you would have commissioned and your great-grandchildren would have finished. This is the scale of what you're talking about.
This place is amazing. The network of tunnels extends thousands of feet underground. It was the ancient city's secret access point for food and water in times of conflict.
So this is a very deep shaft that goes all the way down to the source of the water. This was discovered in the late 1800s by Charles Warren. He was a British explorer and archaeologist. He was the original Indiana Jones. He came to the shaft, crawled up the shaft, and realized that he was standing in an underground chamber deep inside the earth, which he believed was used by King David to capture Jerusalem. But we've recently dated the shaft, and it is of a later date than David, came after David. The original shaft from the time of David has been discovered and is just beyond us.
The Bible tells us how King David realized that capturing these tunnels could give him the key to controlling not only Jerusalem, but the whole kingdom of Israel.
This place, this tunnel, is the original tunnel used by David to capture Jerusalem.
Wow.
The water used to flow here, probably about waist high. This is the water that kept the original inhabitants alive. And David comes from that direction and sneaks through this tunnel and winds his way up into the city.
This way,
Yes.
to go up into the city. With all his arms, with all his weaponry, and the thousands of troops with him, all the way through here.
This was it. This
Wow.
was the original commando raid that really placed David on the map.
But I wanted to feel for myself what it must have been like for David to invade the city. Today, the original route he took is dry, but close by, near the water's source, is another ancient water-filled passage, which is almost exactly like the tunnel David and his army would have taken nearly 3,000 years ago. The tunnels would have been heavily defended, and many people must have lost their lives fighting through here.
This is the spookiest place that I've been to.
As the site of the foundation of the Jewish presence in Jerusalem, this tunnel reveals one big reason why this place is so sacred for Jews. But there are more clues to be found. What's amazing about this city is that the soil around here is literally stuffed with ancient artifacts that reveal the lives of people throughout biblical history. Just across the road from the city of David, Deron introduced me to a man who knows all about the archaeology of this ancient sacred area.
David, and this is Eli Shukron. He is the archaeologist of the city of David.
Pleased to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Here, every day, they are solving the mysteries of Jerusalem 1,000 years after King David, at the time of Jesus.
One of your workers has found a coin. Can you show me what you discovered?
Yes, we found the coins. This coin's found here in the dirt. We didn't clean it, but I know the style of that coins. It's from the Second Temple period, the end of the Second Temple period.
Now, Second Temple period, that's the time of Jesus?
Yeah, this is the time of Jesus.
Wow, absolutely amazing. So you're literally pulling history out of the ground here all the time?
All the time. Every day, every hour, every minute.
I wanted to see if I could dig up a clue myself about Jerusalem's sacred past.
Can I have a go? Can I see if I can find anything?
Yeah, you can.
Sure.
You can count, see?
Sure.
Hey, just a moment. Wow.
Wow, what's this?
What is? Bring me the water. The water. Ah, Maya.
Oh, wow.
Let's clean it.
So what does this look like to you?
Let's see. Let's clean. Let's clean. See? This is stone from the time of Jesus, from the Second Temple period.
What would this?
This was a big vase.
A big vase.
A big vase.
Yes. Yeah. So we found a piece of stone from the Second Temple period.
From the time of Jesus.
Wow.
For you.
Which would have been a jar.
Yes.
Fantastic. Can I keep it?
No.
This is absolutely amazing. People will think that we've made this up, but this is happening all the time.
Yeah. Every day.
Every day.
Every day it's happening here.
Wow.
In Jerusalem, archaeology is changing history. And before I go, there's one more tunnel that Duran wants to show me. It's only just been discovered. It's more than 2,000 years old, and it offers another insight to why, for Jews, this city is the holiest place on earth. And it goes back to a bitter revolt by the Jewish people against their Roman rulers 30 years after the death of Jesus.
This tunnel is a point of major destruction. At the end of the Jewish presence in Jerusalem in the year 70 CE, the Romans sacked Jerusalem, and the last 2,500 Jews flee and hide inside this tunnel. The Romans find out that they're here, and they come and they smoke them out. As a matter of fact, if you look between the rocks, you can see the black soot from the Roman fire of 70 CE.
It was a key moment in Jerusalem's history. From then on, Jerusalem was lost to the Jewish people. It would take them nearly 19 centuries before they could, once more, call the city their own.
What does this mean to you, then, as a Jew? Is this a sacred place for you?
Absolutely. I come to this place, and I'm literally touching the stones of my ancestors. This is where I came from. This is our history book.
So we've learned how Jerusalem first became a sacred Jewish city. Next up, I'm off to the incredible Western Wall to uncover one of the most amazing feats of engineering in history. And then to one of the holiest sites in Islam to discover why many Jews, Christians and Muslims all consider it the most sacred spot on the planet. I'm Robert Beckford, and I'm on a quest to find out what makes Jerusalem the most sacred city on the planet. We've just seen how Jews were expelled from here by the Romans nearly 2,000 years ago. But since the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, Jerusalem has once again become the Promised Land, a sacred homeland for Jews to settle. I met newlyweds, Shmuley and Sherry Hochman, who had just arrived from Brooklyn to live in the Holy City.
We love it here because every Jew here is at home. It's this place, you know, no matter where you're from. You're from Brooklyn, you're from Toronto, you're from no matter where you are, you're at home.
You're a Jew, and this is your home.
And what makes Jerusalem sacred for you? What makes it a sacred
This is
city?
where our forefathers were. We're walking on their very steps. You know, it's really our Bible is coming alive here, and every day we live it.
Sacred. So many people died for it here. So much history went into this. I mean, it's holy. Kiss the floor.
But I wanted to know more. So I sought out Anat Hoffman, who knows Jewish Jerusalem better than most. She was born here and for 14 years served on the city council. I asked her, what makes the city so special?
Jerusalem has been the heart of the Jewish people for thousands of years. It appears in the Bible hundreds of times. It's a place of longing because Supposedly, this is where we all started.
What is it about the history that makes it a place that attracts people? Why?
Robert, don't you get it? God lives in the Holy Mile. The mosque is here, the Holy Sepulchre is here, the wall is here. He's here, he lives here. The fax is here, his computer's here. You want to talk to him, he's up here.
So you find
Get
God here more than anywhere else in the world. This is the home of God.
Right.
So let me take you to the place which makes Jerusalem so sacred for the Jews. The holiest spot of all is here. 2,000 years ago, Temple Mount, in the heart of Jerusalem, was where the original 10 Commandments, handed down by God himself, were kept. But the Romans destroyed the Jewish temple completely and wiped it off the face of the earth. All that remains are these massive walls that surrounded the site. Jewish tradition says it was a punishment from God. And today, the most sacred place for Jews is called the Western Wall.
For Jews, this is the holiest place in all of the world. According to Jewish tradition, all the prayers are sent directly to heaven from here. It's like having a hotline straight to God. And because this place is so holy, some people believe that if you write your prayers down on a piece of paper and place it in one of the cracks in the wall, your prayers are almost guaranteed to be answered.
Just along from the Western Wall is another network of tunnels and subterranean caverns. They've been constructed over the last 40 years to extend access to the original wall. To get a true understanding of their significance, I tracked down one of Jerusalem's top archaeologists, Gabi Barkai.
So the purpose of these tunnels was to enable people to walk along the entire length of the western wall of the Temple Mount from Herod's time. You can walk the original, superbly preserved wall of Herod the Great, which is a little bit more than 2,000 years old.
The construction of the wall is a marvel of engineering.
The stones are enormous, gigantic, and the stones are fitted to one another so perfectly that you cannot even insert a razor's blade or a knife in between the stones after more than 2,000 years. This is one of the best constructions ever made by mankind upon earth.
Just the other side of this wall is where the 10 Commandments were kept 3,000 years ago. So for Jews and Christians, this tunnel is the closest they can get to that holy place.
So this place for you is sacred.
It is sacred beyond any doubt, and so it is for the whole of mankind. This is the most sacred place upon earth.
But this place is not just holy to Jews and Christians. Today, the site of the temple is sacred to another of the world's great religions, Islam. Even here, there are more mysteries to be uncovered. Something never filmed before, a mysterious prayer to Jesus at the heart of one of Islam's most sacred shrines, the Dome of the Rock. But getting there is not going to be easy.
We have permission. Yo, we've got the permission.
I know, it's ridiculous.
I'm Robert Beckford, and I'm going well off the beaten track to uncover what makes Jerusalem the most holy city in the world. We've already seen what makes this city so special in Christianity and Judaism, but it's also sacred for one of the world's other great religions, Islam. Not only am I going to show you an inscription that's never been filmed before, but I'm also going to take you to the place where many people believe the world was first created.
After Medina and Mecca, Jerusalem is the holiest place in all of Islam. For 1.5 billion Muslims, Jerusalem is Al-Quds, the holiest city. And I'm off to the most spectacular mosque in all of the world to find out why.
You'll remember that on this exact spot stood the sacred Jewish temple that once housed the Ten Commandments, and how that temple was destroyed by the Romans nearly 2,000 years ago. But in the year 650, Muslim leaders built this fantastic mosque, the Dome of the Rock, on the very same site to commemorate one of the holiest events in Islam, the ascension of Muhammad into heaven. Today, this area is known as Temple Mount to the Jews and Haram al-Sharif to Muslims. The area itself is controlled by the Muslim administration. But getting in is controlled by the Israeli police.
We have permission. Yeah, we've got the permission.
Although the Muslims had given us full permission to film, the police want to make it crystal clear just who's in charge. And they don't want to let us in.
I know, it's ridiculous.
But after 2 hours of trying to reason with them, it looks like we are never going to get in. But suddenly, they relent and let us in to film one of the holiest sites in the world. The Haram al-Sharif extends over 35 acres at the very heart of Jerusalem and includes religious buildings, fountains and gardens. It's a quiet and peaceful place for prayer and contemplation. Not for nothing is it called the Noble Sanctuary. The man who knows most about the history and importance of this place is the archaeologist of the Muslim Authority, Dr. Yusuf Natche.
I want to ask you personally, what makes Jerusalem sacred for you?
For me, first of all, my belief. I am a Muslim and I grew up believing that this place is blessed by God. It is mentioned in the Quran. And that it is the oldest standing Islamic monument all over the world really makes it my icon.
But not only is it the oldest Muslim building in the world, it houses something far more precious. Something that makes it sacred to all faiths. This is the very rock on which Jerusalem was founded. It's the original center of the world. Many Jews and Christians believe that this was the very place where God created Adam and where Abraham was called upon by him to sacrifice his son. And not only that, Muslims believe that this was also the very spot where the Prophet Muhammad received the word of God and ascended into heaven. But that's not the only revelation in this place. We've uncovered a mysterious inscription at the heart of the holy shrine. But it's not about Muhammad and Islam, it concerns Jesus and the Virgin Mary. Here, high in the cornice, in golden Arabic letters on the green background, it says, "Bless your envoy and your servant Jesus, son of Mary, and peace upon him on the day of birth and on the day of his death and on the day he is raised up again." This is truly significant. A blessing to Jesus at the center of one of the holiest places in Islam. This is the first time this mysterious inscription has ever been filmed. But why is this blessing to Jesus here? Dr. Natche told me, in Islam, many of the biblical prophets are considered sacred by Muslims.
I've been to many Christian churches, but I've never seen mention to Muhammad. But here in this Muslim shrine, we have a mention to Jesus. Why is that?
First, this is Muslim belief. Muslims believe in Abraham, believe in Jesus, believe in Moses. It is a must. Muslims consider these texts the words of God.
So we've now seen why this site, as the place where so many biblical stories occurred, is sacred to Jews, Christians and Muslims, and that all three religions have shared sacred values. But that hasn't stopped conflicts between them. At the southwest corner of the Haram is another mysterious place. Today, it houses the Islamic Museum, but nearly 1,000 years ago, it formed the headquarters of one of the most secretive and sacred holy orders of all time. They were known and feared as the Knights Templar. As we'll see, crusaders like the Knights Templar were not only involved in the brutal conquest of Jerusalem,
the city streets were awash with blood,
but also in the search for fantastic holy treasure.
Treasures from Solomon's temple.
A search that continues to this day. We've seen how Jerusalem is sacred to Jews, Muslims and Christians. But often, these competing claims on the city have led to open conflict and warfare. And some of the worst violence occurred nearly 1,000 years ago during the Crusades, where Christian knights sought to seize the city from Muslims and establish Christian rule over the sacred city.
On the 15th of July, 1099, thousands of crusaders who had come from all parts of Europe marched through this very gate. For 3 days, the crusaders embarked on an orgy of violence. They massacred 30,000 inhabitants of the city, and no one was spared, men, women, children, Jew or Muslim. The commentators tell us that the city streets were awash with blood.
The influence of the Crusaders is still felt in the city today. They built over 90 churches and established numerous hospitals and religious charities. The most famous Crusaders of them all based themselves here, the Temple Mount, the most sacred place in the world, on the ancient site of Solomon's Temple. And from the temple, they took their name, the Knights Templar.
The Templars were reputed to have access to secret knowledge and to the Ark of the Covenant and the most precious relic in Christendom, the drinking vessel used by Jesus at the Last Supper, the Holy Grail itself.
This is the stuff of mysteries, Hollywood movies and the Da Vinci Code. But what is the real truth? For an answer, I asked Jerusalem's top archaeologist, Gabi Barkai.
The Temple Mount is honeycombed with more than 50 subterranean cavities. There are stories about all kinds of treasures found by the Crusaders. In Jewish tradition, there is a legend about Prophet Jeremiah hiding the Ark of the Covenant somewhere in one of the cavities of the Temple Mount.
The Ark of the Covenant used to contain the original 10 Commandments. It would be a priceless treasure, unlike any other in history. And there's another clue here. Muslim tradition says the souls of the dead guard a fantastic treasure hidden under the rock. Some say it came from King Solomon 3,000 years ago. Could it possibly be the same one?
Under here is where many people believe the treasures from Solomon's temple are actually buried.
But Professor Barkai doesn't believe it.
Every period in Jerusalem looted its predecessors. There are no treasures. And if there are treasures, I'm the one who is going to find them.
But the rumors persist. And some men are prepared to risk millions of dollars and even their lives in a quest for the fabulous treasures of the Temple of Jerusalem. And there was one man who very nearly succeeded. There aren't many clues left now, but if you know where to look, you can just about uncover the story. And it's one of bribery, mystery, and fantastic wealth sought for in the tunnels beneath Jerusalem. In 1909, a British adventurer, Montague Parker, claimed to have found an ancient text which would lead him to the fabulous treasures of King Solomon. Few of the records of Parker's expedition survive, but this Jerusalem library holds a unique and priceless collection. Does the answer lie here?
In this album about Jerusalem, we have all the photos of the time of the Parker expedition.
Parker believed a hidden tunnel near the old city of David would lead to a chamber containing the fabulous treasures of Solomon's temple. At the time, he reckoned it was worth over $200 million. That's the equivalent of $24 billion today. After 2 years of fruitless searching, things were becoming desperate. Parker's costs were spiraling out of control. The officials he'd bribed were getting nervous. The investors were impatient for results. Something radical needed to be done, and done quickly. On the night of April the 17th, 1911, Parker made one last desperate bid to try and discover the treasure. What he decided to do that night was completely illegal and sacrilegious. But he was a desperate man. Under the cover of darkness, Parker and his team actually broke into Temple Mount and began digging in the most sacred place in the world. What happened that night in 1911 is still debated by experts to this day.
What he hoped to do in one night is a great mystery to me.
Montague Parker was caught carrying out illicit excavations upon the Temple Mount. He had to flee from Jerusalem, riding his horse, from time to time grabbing a handful of golden coins and threw them behind his back to slow down those who chased him. And he managed to escape from Jerusalem with the teeth of his skin.
Some say Parker did actually retrieve the Ark of the Covenant, but one thing's for sure: Jerusalem never gives up its secrets easily. But there are other sacred treasures here, not gold, but spiritual. From the birth of Christianity,
This marks the spot where Jesus was born,
to the end of the world.
This is the Valley of Judgment Day, and it takes place here.
I'm Robert Beckford, and I'm uncovering the secrets of the sacred wonder that is Jerusalem. And I'm about to take you to the very spot where Jesus Christ was born.
Today, I'm on my way to Bethlehem, one of the most important sites within Christendom. I've been told it's a difficult place to get into.
Bethlehem is just 5 miles south of Jerusalem, but it feels a million miles away. Because today, the birthplace of Jesus is completely cut off from Jerusalem by this huge wall. The Israelis say they built it to protect themselves from Palestinian suicide bombers, but the Palestinians say it was built to secure Israeli control over land that rightfully belongs to them. So to get through to Bethlehem, we have to cross an Israeli military checkpoint. But soon, we hit a problem.
We've been delayed at the security checkpoint, and as you can see, it's quite a sophisticated setup they've got here. Our Israeli fixer is trying to get us access because we've been told at the moment we're not going to be allowed in. Finally, after waiting around for nearly an hour, we've been given permission to go through the checkpoint. So I'm now going to go into the city of Bethlehem.
Just the other side of the wall, we came upon a rally to celebrate Palestinian Independence Day. Like Israelis, Palestinians are proud of their country, their land and their religion. But what's surprising is that not all of them are Muslims. There are many Christians here too.
We finally made it. I've arrived at the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem. It marks the very spot where Jesus was born.
For me, the Church of the Holy Nativity is a mysterious and moving place. It's incredible to stand in the place where the whole of Christianity began. For Christians, this is one of the most sacred places on the whole planet.
Down these steps is the very spot where Jesus was born. Come with me and take a look. Whether you're a person of faith or no faith at all, you can't help but be moved by the sense of awe and wonder in this place. This marks the spot where, according to Christian tradition, Jesus was born.
But there's not just Christian monks and pilgrims here. This is also a place of sacred pilgrimage for Muslims. For as we discovered earlier, Jesus is recognized as a prophet in Islam too. All along our journey here, we've uncovered surprising similarities between the three great religions of Jerusalem. But there's one final mystery, and it concerns the end of the world. And it's a mystery that unites them all, Jews, Christians and Muslims. They all agree that the end of the world will happen right here in Jerusalem. And this is the very spot where it's going to happen, on the historic Mount of Olives. Here, the Messiah will return to earth and raise up the dead. Here is where the end of the world takes place. And this is the very site of Judgment Day. One man who has studied these texts is David Parsons, an American evangelical Christian who now lives in the city.
This is the Valley of Resurrection. This is the Valley of Judgment Day, and it takes place here. History, as we know it now, will end here in this spot, and there'll be a reckoning.
According to Jewish, Christian and Muslim holy scriptures, the Messiah will appear in Jerusalem at the end of time.
So it is something that Christianity, Judaism, and Islam can all agree on. It's where you have to give an account to God for your life.
This shared belief between all three religions that the world will come to an end here makes this city surely even more sacred. We've seen how Jerusalem is sacred to Christians because it's the site of the birth, crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus. We've seen how the city is the holiest place in Judaism, as the original city of David and the site of the Temple of Solomon, the place where Jews can get closest to God. And we've seen how Jerusalem is sacred to Muslims as the site of Muhammad's ascendancy into heaven. And how this sacredness to all three faiths has often led to conflicts and division.
Despite all its current difficulties, all faiths do manage to live side by side here in Jerusalem, and all faiths emphasize respect and tolerance for others.
That's why, whatever the problems and conflicts over thousands of years, Jerusalem endures and remains for so many people the most important piece of real estate on the planet. It might be the right place, but with all the crowds, it feels like something is missing. There's another element to the puzzle of what makes this place so sacred. We need to find another clue. And one place to start is here, at the Russian Orthodox convent of Mary Magdalene in Jerusalem. Sister Catherine comes from Berkeley, California, but she converted to the Russian Orthodox Church and now lives in their sanctuary here. She believes that just being here changes people. She calls it her spiritual suntan.
I tell some pilgrims that come that all you have to do here is roll up your sleeves and you'll get a grace suntan, you know, like a grace tan. You don't have to do much, you just look and you feel and you can just grow in spirit just by being here. You don't have to do anything, just being here is enough.
But to really experience the sacred, you need to go off the beaten track and search out what really happened here.
If you're open and you want the truth and you search, then God will show you. And by going to these places and getting in your mind a sense of how it happened or where it happened, you start to feel that presence.
And that's certainly something many pilgrims feel here in Jerusalem. I met Stephen and Rebecca Walker, also from California, who were conducting their ministry in the Holy City.
Glory! Hallelujah! Hallelujah! God is so good!
They are trying to unite the shared tradition of Jewish and Christian beliefs.
Hallelujah. That was an absolutely amazing thing. I'm not seeing anybody blow one of these at all here in Jerusalem. So tell me, first of all, what is this?
This is a shofar, and a shofar is famous mainly for when they marched around the city of Jericho, when Israel first came out of Egypt and they came to take this promised land, and the priest would go ahead of all the people and blow the shofar, and then they all shouted and the walls came down, and that's the
tradition. So blowing this is actually to make people aware that victory is going to take place.
Not only victory, but blowing the shofar brings down the anointing of God on people's lives. Scatters the enemy. And they do it in times of coronation of high holy days, which we just got through with.
And announces the coming of the Lord.
Yeah. Why is Jerusalem sacred to you?
You know, God has called us to Jerusalem. My wife had a burning in her spirit.
This is a holy place. There's no place like this in the whole world.
Now I've got to have a go at blowing this. You've got to show me how to do it.
Oh, please do. You do it like a trumpet?
Yep.
Put your lips together like that. Do that. All right, now try it in there.
Let's try and
put your lips on the inside of that hole and give it a go.
I'm just waiting for the people to come. I'm waiting for the walls to fall. Amazing. Thank you very much. The Crusaders built almost 100 churches in Jerusalem, and the best preserved is right here. Come with me and see. This building has been a place of worship for over 1,000 years. Out of all the churches I've been to in Jerusalem, this one is the most peaceful, the most spiritual, and a place where you can really find the sacred.